Marcus Sheridan, welcome back to the program. It's great to see you, my friend. How are you?
You too, Jim. I'm ready to do this, man.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's about 16 or 18 months ago, you and I had a discussion. Things have been changing in marketing, um, in the digital space, pretty much everything in life. And one of the things that pops up a lot is AI. Before we get into the discussion, though, I want to introduce you and explain to the viewers who you are, where you came from, and why you've become so important in this space and somewhat a celebrity. I mean, when I mention to people your book, they're like, "Oh, I've heard of that or I've read that." And I said, "Great. It's a great book. They ask, you answer. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the beginnings of things with Liverpool's 2008, the financial crisis, and how you got started. And then we'll move into other subjects.
Yeah, I'll give the quick version here.
Mm.
Started the company in 2001 with a couple buddies. I was right out of college. 2008 rolls around, and it looks like we're going to get crushed. And I really thought we were going to lose the business at that time, as many pool companies did go out of business. The beauty of pain, though, is it forces us in life to reach outside of our comfort zone and do things we otherwise might not have done, right? And so this is when I started to really learn about things like inbound marketing, content marketing. And as I read all this stuff, learned about it, what I was saying in my simple pool guy mind was, Marcus, if you just obsess of your customers' questions, worries, fears, issues, concerns, and you're willing, keyword, to address those online, especially on your website, you might save your business. So I said, well, shoot, if there's one thing I can do is I can listen well and I can address those things online really well. And so I told my business partners, I said, look, here's the goal. We're going to become like the Wikipedia of fiberglass pools. And we're going to address anything and everything about, in our case, fiberglass swimming pools online, especially on our website. And we became the most trafficked swimming pool website in the world. That led to us having a manufacturer, like we became a dealer and then we were a manufacturer of fiberglass pools. Then we became the first franchise of fiberglass pools in the US. And it was like a crazy ride. And I sold the manufacturing, but I still own the original River Pools franchise, if you will, or I'm a franchisee of the company that I started now. And during this journey, of course, I wrote a book about what we had done called They Ask You Answer.
Mm.
And They Ask You Answer is this framework, this obsession with the way buyers think, what they want, how they behave, and your willingness as an organization to meet them where they are, not where you are, where you want to be. No, no, no. It's meeting them where they are because ultimately it's the marketplace that matters, not our opinions, not our feelings, not what we want as a business owner, not how we want to market. It's the marketplace that dictates the terms. And so if we can meet them where we are, where they are, we're going to be very, very successful. And They Ask You Answers done really well. And contractors, home contractors all over the world now have embraced it.
Yeah.
It crushes pretty much anything to do when there's a lot of fear, a lot of questions, a lot of doubt, which is home improvement, man. Oh, it is just made for that.
I've told you the story. Tommy Mello from A1 Garage Door contacted me one day and he said, "Hey, Jim, you know that audio podcast you're doing for our company at A1? We're going video." And I said, "Well, yeah, how you going video?" And he said, "Well, you're going to do it." And I said, "I'm a radio guy. I've got a face for radio. I don't do video." And he said, "I'm going to introduce you to this book called They Ask You Answer." And I listened to the Audible version. And halfway through, I send my buddy Tommy this text. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, where has this been hiding? This is awesome." And then I read the book or listened to the book, and I've listened to it like 6 times. No joke, because there's always more nuggets to get out of it. I recommend it all the time, and it's very simple. They ask, you answer. What does the customer want? Okay, and then give it to them. And one of the biggest things I find is pricing, but a lot of contractors don't want to give that out, do they?
Yeah, this is, in the book we talk about this a lot. And in fact, They Ask You Answer has a new version coming out in April, and it's available right now. You just go to endlesscustomers.com. It's called Endless Customers. That's the new title of the book because that's if you do They Ask You Answer, the payoff really is endless customers. And I appreciate what you said about it, Jim. And within this framework, There's essentially 5 subjects that run the internet in terms of the way that we research, especially when it comes to home improvement. There's 5 subjects. The 5 subjects are cost questions, problems slash fear questions, comparisons, reviews, and best. Okay, so cost, problems, comparisons, reviews, best. We call those the big 5 in the book. And the foremost is this whole concept of cost, price, etc. And the thing about it is, here's what's wild. If you look at the reason why most companies, first of all, you got to look at your own behavior. When you're on a website, you're looking for cost and price, and you cannot find it. The emotion you experience is frustration. You don't say, oh, I'm going to stick around here and just keep looking. You don't say, I'm going to call that company. You keep looking until someone gives you what you're looking for. And generally speaking, that's the company you're going to give your trust to. That's how it works. Now, here's the arguments that home improvement companies and others use as to why they can't talk about cost and price. First and foremost, they say every job is different. It depends. Well, that's the easiest one to explain because you can explain what drives cost up, what drives cost down, why some companies are expensive, why some companies are cheap. You can talk about roughly where do you fall. You can show different project examples and give, again, ranges as to where they might expect to be. That's the first reason. It depends. Second reason why people say they can't talk about it is they say, well, if they see how expensive it is, it's going to scare them away. Nope. Sorry. The thing that actually scares us away online is ignorance. When we can't find what we're looking for, that's the number one reason why people leave your dang website. Is because they can't find what they're looking for. And the number one thing they're looking for, number one, I've got all the data. It's pricing information. And finally, number 3 reason why we say we can't do it is we say dumb things like, hey, I don't want my competitors to see it, which is ridiculous because if I went to anybody that's worth their salt in this industry and said, do you have a sense as to what your competitors charge? They would say yes. And so this is the big secret, non-secret. Everybody acts like nobody knows what everybody's charging. In reality, everybody has a pretty good sense as to what everybody else is charging. And so those are the 3 reasons that don't talk about it. Now, how can you talk about cost and price on your website? Let me give you a few different levels if we could, Jim. I'm going to give you like level 0 to level 4, basically. All right. Level 0 means you've got this pricing tab on your website, but then they click on the tab and it says, hey, fill out this form and we'll reach out. We'll talk to you about pricing.
Oh boy.
Okay, that's like the middle finger of the internet, call for pricing. It just drives us crazy. We call that level 0 because that ain't worth nothing. Okay, you don't even get to level 1 with that. Now, what is level 1? Level 1 is basically if you have a pricing page on your site that really teaches the market what drives cost up, what drives cost down, why some companies are expensive, why some companies are cheap. You really dive into this. I'm talking 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 words, really educate the market on what value looks like. That's level 2. Level 3 is when you do what you did with level 2, but you do it with a video as well. And so you have a great video that really shows here's how pricing varies in this industry. Here's what you can expect. Here's why some jobs are more expensive and some jobs are less expensive. And really help the person say, oh, okay, thank you so much. You helped me understand. Okay. That's level 3. Level 4 is when you have what would be considered some type of pricing tool, a pricing estimator on your website. Now, this is becoming more and more prolific when it comes to home improvement. But the thing about it is, I have a company that I recently developed as a software called PriceGuide.ai and was really made for home contractors. And it uses, of course, AI, and it helps anybody, any contractor, regardless of what they sell, to build an estimator. That's the key phrase, Jim, estimator, that you can immediately, within less than 30 minutes, you can design it, get the code, and put it on your website.
Wow.
And once it's on the site, here's the thing about it. The companies that have done this, and I've got a ton of case studies now because, I've got the data. On average, you get 3x the number of leads from your website than you were getting before. The moment you put a pricing estimator on your dang website. Think about that. And you don't have to give, nor really should you give, the exact price. What everybody wants to know when they are just starting to think about that new HVAC system that they might have to buy or that thing that they might have to fix, they're thinking, gosh, I just want a sense for how much might this cost? That's the big question. They don't need to know the exact cost. They want to get a sense for it. And if you can show it, you're going to win their trust. And so can you imagine getting 300% more leads? That's the power of Price Guide. So you can check that out at priceguide.ai. That is level 4. Level 5 really is if you give an exact quote, but I don't think that is most home improvement, because generally you do have too many variables that you have to confirm in the home before you can give that exact price. But that would be a level 5. Everybody should do level 1, level 2, level 3.
With the estimator, I'm going to make an assumption that you could estimate a real reasonable price for a moderately priced product and or service. And then if you wish, as the HVAC company, go in there and offer other items that are higher, right? So you're not necessarily cutting your legs off, right?
You're not at
You're
all.
getting in the door.
100%. And that's the beauty of this, is because you've already come in with a lot of trust because they have a sense for things. And what you might be shown on your estimator is the good. But most of us have a good, better, best, right? So you might come into the home and say, now, based on what you saw, here is an option that you have for your package, which is totally fine. Now, let me show you some other options as well that you might want to consider, and here's why. And then you see that good, better, best phenomena, and they're like, okay, well, based on that, I think I'm going to take this middle one right here. But still, what brought them to the game is the fact that you were willing to discuss something that no one else was willing to discuss. And Endless Customers talk about there's 4 pillars of what is essentially your journey to becoming a known and trusted brand in the home improvement space. There's 4 pillars of things that you got to do. Okay. Number 1, you got to be willing to talk about online what others aren't willing to talk about. Number 2, you got to be willing to show what others aren't willing to show. Number 3, you got to be willing to sell in a way others aren't willing to sell. And number 4, in the process of doing those 3 things, you got to be more human, right? When you put something like an estimator on your site, you're talking about, you're showing, and you're selling in a way that nobody pretty much is in your space.
Absolutely. I'm going to flash something up here real quick. This is the book called When Can You Do It? And it really fits into what you're talking about, Marcus. Written by a good friend of mine and client, Tom Decker, in the insulation and solar attic fan business. So we tripled his business in 1 year through direct response radio a few years ago. And that's all he did. He put all his money into that. He pushed all his chips into it. But the title, When Can You Do It? This is what you're going to love about this. Oh, by the way, I wrote the forward to the book, so it's kind of fun. But
Nice.
When can you do it is the only question you want your prospect to ask when you go to the house. And that's what the book is about, right? Think about it. You've answered everything, right, Marcus? Everything's answered. You go out to the house. When can you do it? It's like the infomercial for the blender or the Thigh Master. When you call the 800 number, all you're asking is, are you ready for my credit card number? And when will it be here? And that's
right.
what you want.
That's exactly right. That's what you want to hear, because when you remove all doubt from the conversation, and when somebody's thinking about any type of home improvement project, there's a lot of doubts in their mind. When you remove all doubt, the only emotion that's left is trust. And trust is the one thing, regardless of what happens with AI, regardless of what happens with technology, we're all still going to be in the business of trust in 20 years. And so if you build your entire model around how can I drive more trust, well, then you're going to be effective, which is why direct response radio works, right? Because, I mean, it's a great model that you have, because you have a deeper conversation that's happening on a platform that people actually believe in, where the trust is already there. Because it's a deeper conversation, there's more trust. And what's cool about it, of course, you can have like this immediate offer, which shows you immediate returns and ROI. See, that's what makes, so what's cool about this, Jim, is in Endless Customers, I talk about constantly, like, I'm always driving disrupt. Don't do it like everybody else. You take radio, which the traditional way, not as effective. Your way, very effective. Traditional way takes a long time to work. Your way works immediately. Like, this is the type of thing, like, that is how you have to be. I run towards different. Sally Hogshead oftentimes says, different is better than better. And it's so freaking true. I mean, it's such a beautiful phrase. Once you start to really see that, you start to stand out in the marketplace. You look at like Liquid Death. Liquid Death, it's the exact same freaking water inside those cans, as any type of Aquafina you've ever gotten. But there's a reason why Liquid Death now is in convenience stores all over the world, because they marketed differently than everybody else is marketing. And they said, we're going to make this look like it's an energy drink slash alcohol. And people say, that's really, really cool. That stands out. That's why different is better than better.
And I agree with you. Marketing something in a different way is smart. I mean, it's really that simple. So a lot of people say, hey, look, I'm on Facebook or I'm on Instagram, so that's where I want to advertise. Or I'm up in the middle of the night and I can't sleep and I want to advertise between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning on TV because that's when I'm up. It doesn't matter what you want, right? It doesn't matter what you want. It matters what the consumer you're looking for is consuming, what medium, right? So do you get a little frustrated sometimes where someone says, hey, I think I should advertise here, promote here, market here because that's what I like? But no, who
Yeah,
cares?
personal opinions have screwed up a lot of smart business decisions in the
Mm,
past, right? And you see it all the time. I mean, you see it with video, case in point. Person says, video is just not my thing. Well, yeah, people don't really care if this is your thing or not. The marketplace just wants their answer, and they want to see it, right?
yeah.
That's an example, right? So it's like I learned a long time ago, if I was going to be a successful entrepreneur, business owner, I had to get over myself. That's
Mm.
why it's called they ask, you answer. It's not called you want, you answer. It's called they ask, you answer, because they are the only ones that matter in the equation.
It's true. And that's always been the case. The customer's always right, right? If the customer wants a widget plus two, you give them the widget plus two.
You just can't. What you can't do is there's these mega trends. You can complain about them, or you can do something about them. Just case
Mm.
in point, like I said with the pricing estimator, I'm gonna tell you right now. Within the next 5 years, 90% of home improvement companies are going to have some type of pricing estimator on their website. Why? Well, a lot of them are going to do it kicking and screaming, reactionary. Because in every industry, I see this over and over again. You got these leaders, they become complacent.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody comes in and breaks the rules. But because they're a rule breaker, the marketplace responds and says, oh, I like that. Oh, an instant estimate? Yeah. Finally a company's willing to talk about this, and that. Yeah, give it to me. I like that. And then the rule breaker now becomes the rule maker because the marketplace says, I want that. And the previous leader has to now become the rule follower. That's the circle of life in every single business. You see it over and over again, which is why if you're listening to this right now, and if you haven't broken at least some rules of your industry in terms of the way everybody's doing it, there's a decent chance that you're losing traction in the marketplace and you're not going to build an extraordinary brand. You've got to constantly be looking to break the rules.
Everybody seems to do what everybody else does. I guarantee you, if you ask home service providers where they spend most of their money, it's going to be the G word, Google. Wasn't that case before Google, right? Oh, yellow pages, a billboard, some radio, TV, print, like newspapers. Okay. So, and a lot of those are just not there anymore. I will say radio is good, but a lot of those just aren't there anymore. And everyone seems to go to Google. And then when Google changes something, which they're always changing it up, I know because I've been using Google for 20 years for my business. Then all of a sudden they're like, oh, our calls are down 25%. And I'm like, why? Well, because Google changed the algorithm or they did something, someone flipped a switch. And I'm like, you need to stop being an order taker, create a brand, build the brand, and think outside the Google box for God's sakes.
Yeah.
What else
So,
should people be doing besides Google to promote themselves, Marcus?
well, I mean, we could talk about this for an hour. I talk about it a ton. And then this customers, this idea of building a known and trusted brand
Mm-hmm.
that is not reliant on things, to your point, Jim, like Google. You cannot build your house on Google search going forward. And I would argue that you're not going to be able to build your house on Google paid either,
Mm.
because so much is so much change is happening. You have to be found and become known by spreading your wings and finding some of these other platforms where your buyers are. Yeah, a perfect case in point is I think everybody now needs to see themselves as a media company. And, Jim, you're a media company. I'm a media company. My pool company's a media company. My
Mm-hmm.
speaking company's a media company. My AI, it's all a media company because, case in point, if I'm a contractor, whereas in 2009, I could have just posted stuff on Google and I was okay. I can't just do that today and build the most traffic swimming pool website in the world and have this incredible brand. Can't do that today. I've also got to say, all right, I'm going to go all in with YouTube. I'm going to be much more aggressive with video in general. I'm going to do
Yep.
short and long form. And as I do that short form, I'm going to also put that on Instagram. I'm going to use their reels. I'm going to use Facebook reels. I'm going to use TikTok if they're here or not, whatever, because I'm getting over myself. And the fact that I don't like TikTok or I don't like China or whatever it is, and all those things can be true. It's like, I personally do not like social media. I teach it, I do it because, again, going back to the fact that
Yep.
we get over our opinions and we have to meet the market where the market is. And so, this idea of becoming a media company and showing the thing, you mentioned Tommy Mello. Tommy Mello at this point is a media brand. That's
Mhm.
what he has become. And that's because he's on so many different platforms, channels, if you will, and he keeps compounding it out. It's made him very, very successful. You might be listening to this and you might say, well, I'm contractor Bob and I'm just in, Fayetteville, North Carolina. And how in the world is this going to apply to me? It's like, you've got to become the most known and trusted brand in Fayetteville. You got to do it by thinking differently. Like, how many contractors here have ever done a Facebook Live of something that was like a really cool thing that we do every day as contractors, but yet the world, they don't know how that works or how it looks, but yet you could go live and you could show some of these things and people are like, that's amazing, but we're not thinking like that way. A media company thinks like that. And that's how you have to start thinking, regardless of the size of your brand or the locality.
Marcus, this is very simple. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. So they buy from people. They really do. Unless you're buying from a vending machine or Amazon or a few other things, we really like to buy from people. Even when we buy a new Ford F-150, if we don't like the sales guy and the general manager at dealership A, we'll go to B because we don't want to give them our business, right? We like to buy from people. So if you're human and you're a plumber or an HVAC guy and you're talking on a live or recorded video, people get to know you, like you, and trust you. And when they need to make a decision to buy plumbing or HVAC services, especially now, let's say they have a need right now and they see you, they're more likely to engage with you because they kind of know you. That's why celebrities get paid a lot of money to endorse shampoo. Think about it. The shampoo's freaking shampoo. But Tom Brady's hair looks pretty darn good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
I
he's a
get
big
to use
name.
what he's using. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so you can be.
I would put it like this, though, to this,
Yeah,
what you're saying, Jim.
yeah.
If you're a contractor of any type, your goal should be that when you meet the person and shake their hand the first time, what they say to you is the following words: I already feel like I know you. Now, that can be manifest in a variety of ways. It could be manifest from a long form radio program. It could be manifest from them watching your YouTubes. It could be manifest from, them, following your TikTok. But they should say, I feel like I've already met you. I feel like I already know you. You look just like you did on the camera, right? That's the type of statements that you should be getting, not this situation where you're walking up the driveway and they're wondering, who's that? That's a problem.
Absolutely. And it's not that difficult to do. I know you and your team at Impact teach people, train them, and encourage them to build their own media center internally, right?
Yeah.
Hire your own videographer and team. And if not, then at least do this yourself as a smaller operator and get this out there. Be a media company, like you've said. And I totally agree. If you're not doing this today with what's going on with Google and all the other changes out there, you're becoming more and more irrelevant. And on top of that, you've got PE companies, private equity out there changing the landscape of the home service industry.
Big time.
So
Yep,
little
big time.
guys are getting choked out, and you really need to be a boutique shop now, a good one. You can't just be a little guy. You need, because you are a boutique shop compared to the Walmarts in home service, right? Or the Amazons. You're not a $1 billion HVAC company. You are a $1.5 million HVAC company. Can you stay in business? Is that viable? You need to start doing some stuff.
Yeah, and the proliferation of PE is also an opportunity. Remember, one of the pillars I mentioned earlier is you got to be more human than others are willing to be. And typically, not every time, but typically when a PE company gets involved, they're not going to do some of those very human things that make you say, "Oh, that's Colonel Sanders right there. I recognize him, and I have a relationship. I feel like I know him." And so that's an advantage that a lot of these folks have. You might not have some extraordinary budget, for, let's say, advertising, but you can be creative. You can be different. You can be unique. You can break rules in your industry. That's your advantage. You got no attorneys there that are telling you, no, can't do that. All right. That's glorious. There's nothing more enjoyable, in my opinion, than being a small business owner in the United States of freaking America. It's awesome. It's awesome because you don't have the red tape. You wake up each day, yes. You eat what you kill. That's what we signed up for. Right. And so that's why, as marketing is getting more difficult, and it is, it is. I'm not going to lie. It's getting more difficult. Okay. I'm not going to feel sorry for anybody because we got an awesome life. That's the life we chose. We're entrepreneurs, right? And we want to control our destinies. You're a control freak. That's why you started a business, because you're a control freak. You're trying to control your destiny. So am I. That's a beautiful thing. And so now you've got to do that with your brand. And that starts with thinking like a media company, thinking outside the box, not doing what everybody else is doing.
Besides your original book, They Ask You Answer, and Endless Customers is coming out, what other single book would you recommend to home service professionals, smaller companies today to help their business and marketing? Do you have a special one?
Golly. I would say the one that helped me the most as a pool contractor was Good to Great.
Classic.
And the reason why Good to Great was so powerful for me was, when I heard the concept of hedgehog concept, I said, okay, so what you're saying is I need to choose something that truly I could be the best in the world at. And that started to really guide me because we were all over the place when we first started a swimming pool company. We were doing above ground pools, we were doing hot tubs, we were doing tanning beds. I mean, dude, man, we had retail, all types of crap. Eventually we said, let's just be an in-ground pool company, not just an in-ground pool company. Let's be a fiberglass pool company. So that was our hedgehog concept. And that came from Good to Great. In the course of that too, then I said, okay, so from a marketing perspective, what's our hedgehog concept? Well, we're going to be the most transparent, honest, like radically transparent teachers in the world when it comes to fiberglass pools online. That became our hedgehog concept from a marketing perspective, right? So just really understanding how if you focus on what's that one thing that you could do that's extraordinary, that, that really sets you apart from the rest, and you lean into that hardcore, it's really beautiful what it can help you to achieve.
So you're not an HVAC company, you're not a plumber, you're not an electrician, you're not a roofer. You're a unique solution because it's a commodity. An electrician is an electrician, right? So what separates you? Why does the homeowner need you? Like you. They need an electrician. Why do they need you? So you need to step out. So do you contend that the owner and or top management needs to be that face, or do you just hire people who work for you to be the face on video and all these other things?
Yes, the owner, leadership team, they need to get over themselves and they need to put themselves out there. Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
No question about it.
I agree with that. That's what we do at Checker Pro with our our videos online for our contractors, I'm like, no, not the guy you hired 6 weeks ago. The owner needs to be on.
Yeah. And you
And
don't
this
need
is
to
why.
spend $1 million trying to make a lizard famous or an elephant or whatever your animal is. Just put your stinking face on the camera and start answering some of the fundamental questions and
Mm.
fears that people have with respect to that thing that you do.
It's a simple concept. What has been your feedback since you've written this book? I mean, I know you talk to people every day about they ask you answer.
Yeah,
What's the overall feedback? I know what you were thinking when you wrote the book. I I know what you're
sorry about that.
thinking when you wrote the book. Um, but you've had now years and years for this feedback. What do people tell you about this? What's their perception? Do they get it? And are they implementing it correctly?
Yeah, when somebody reads, they ask you answer now endless customers. They always pretty much say the same thing. This is so obvious.
Mm.
Why are we not doing this? And they also say oftentimes, I've felt like we should be doing this for a while. Because inherently it's just the golden rule, right? It's just treat them, market to them as you yourself would want to be marketed to. If if you're a buyer, you love going to websites that are willing to be honest and real with you. You want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. You want to get a sense for pricing. You want things to be fast and friction free. You want your fears to be eliminated. And the ones that do that, you go back to again and again, and you give them your trust, and eventually you give them your business. Your organization is no different. The problem is we see our own behaviors and our own buyer psychology, and then we literally say, but it's not quite like that in our industry. That is total BS. It is like that in your industry. And even though every company wants to say, but we're different, the companies that do extraordinary things, they're not saying that. They're saying, my buyers are just humans.
Mm.
They got fears, worries, questions, concerns. They behave like everybody else. And I'm going to meet them where they are. That's powerful.
Yeah. No, absolutely. What have we not covered today that you think would be beneficial to wrap up this conversation, specifically for that home service professional out there who's like, okay, I got a lot of good stuff. I'm ready to move forward with this. What's that next step for them?
Well, I would just say when it comes to, because a lot of people are intimidated by that media company comment, but you, in your back pocket right now, have a camera that's nicer than anything Hollywood had literally 15 years ago.
Mm.
Anything they had. And
Wow.
if you just get over yourself, because when we said we're going to be an entrepreneur, we also said, I'm going to ask people for their money. You ask people for their money.
Mm.
So when you ask people for their money, you lose the right to say, but I'm not going to give them every reason to trust me. So pull your phone out and just, when you get on the job site, start making videos and just say, hey, I wanted to show you something here on the job site. This homeowner was thinking about this and that. Let me show you what we did and how we solved this problem. And I used to do that all the time. I'd walk up on a job site and I would just say, if I was a homeowner right now, what's every question I would have?
Mm.
Why they do this? Why they do that? Why they do that? Every single one of those is a video that you could post on your Facebook, that you could put on your Instagram. You take those photos, and now you're starting to think like a media company, and you're a better communicator for it. And you're starting to get better leads because of it. You're like, this ain't so bad. I'm actually pretty decent at this. You see, you're good on camera if you're good with people. And I bet you if I was talking to anybody right now and I said, are you good with people? They say yes. So if you're good with people, that means you have the potential to be good on camera. You just haven't developed that comfort level. You will, just like you have developed it in the home, you will develop that same thing on camera.
Just having a video with they ask you answer sets you apart from most other contractors. It's that
Oh,
simple.
yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
just setting yourself apart is phenomenal. So I tell people all the time, look, when you're doing this, okay, and you've now got videos. And you know what I do? I interview contractors and I've plugged in the they ask you answer system into what I do. So picture this, you're out there as an HVAC company talking to the homeowner, and they've had 3 or 4 bids from competition. Everyone agrees that you need a 3-ton and a 5-ton air conditioning unit, one for downstairs, one for upstairs. What has not been agreed upon is who the homeowner is going with. If everything else is the same and pricing is close, but you say, you know what? We talked about this on this video with the owner of the company a few months ago. Can I send you this, or can I play it now on my iPad for you? That alone could do it. Even if they don't watch it, it could be the closer because you've offered it up.
That's right.
Mm.
That's right.
That's simple.
It really is. We overcomplicate it, and it doesn't need to be so complicated.
Yeah, it's a great asset to have. Marcus, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy. I'm going to put in the description of the podcast endless customers and all your other contact information at Impact. I'll make sure it's chock full so people can click on links. You do a lot on YouTube, of course. You're the they ask you answer guy, so you put a lot of content out there. So I encourage people to go out online, just type in Marcus's name into Google and to YouTube, and you're going to find a lot of great free content.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks so much, Jim.
Thanks, Marcus.